Welcome to the Vocal Lab podcast with your hosts Shelby Rollins and Jason Catron, bringing you the best from the music industry. Get ready for first-class conversations packed with exclusive techniques and transformative insights, all designed to help you reach your top note. Amazing guest today for you. Shelby, I'm going to let you introduce this amazing guest because you're actually friends with her and first time meeting today. Great to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, welcome to the podcast.
So we have Sarah Robbins from Mailbox Money here with us today.
We all
Happy
love
to be
some
here.
Mailbox Money.
She's a boss. She's
Yeah.
a boss. My kid told me one time, we were like, my middle child, Houston, who's the boss, mom or dad? And he goes, well, dad's the boss, but mommy's the boss. He was literally like 4 years old. It was amazing. I have it on video.
Okay, wait, that is amazing.
But that's Sarah. She's the boss.
oh yeah, I'll take that. I like that.
Well, and she's a woman in the music industry, which is empowering. I think that's really cool because it's somewhat of a male-dominated industry when you're talking about executives.
Mm.
So we got a girl in the house.
We sure
It's pretty
do.
awesome.
Sarah, give the world out there just a little snapshot of where you come from, a little bit about Mailbox Money before we dive into these tough questions we have for you today.
Awesome. So I'm from Mississippi. I went to Belmont, so I've been here about 13 years, I guess. I started in at a label at Big Machine, and
Nice.
then moved to publishing at Big Yellow Dog, and then started my own company shortly after that. So Mailbox Money started as publishing. Now we do label services. We have a label, which has been really cool to properly do like artist development.
Yeah.
And then we
Is
also
that the
do
same name, the label?
So Mailbox Money Music is publishing, Mailbox Money Records is label, and
Love it.
Mailbox Money Management is management.
Were you like
Yeah.
shocked
Yes.
when you looked for the name?
Shocked.
Because that's like the perfect name.
It's the perfect name. I'm so
Yeah.
proud of it.
Like, seriously.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm really proud. So we actually, when I started my company, it was JRM, which is my husband's name, Jimmy Robbins Music.
Okay.
We didn't really mean to start a publishing company. When we got married, he was signing a new deal and went from having like a ton of creative, services to kind of doing like a sale and going to a company with smaller creative staff. So he was going to have to hire somebody. And it was what I was already doing. And so I was like, well, this makes sense for our family. So I started working with him. And then we quickly found, artists we wanted to work with. And we're like, well, we have this entity already set up, so we'll just do that. And then I feel like we outgrew it. And we just, I was running the company. And it was really important to me for it to be like encompass everything that we do.
Right.
So that's when I was like, Mailbox Money Music would be great.
Yeah.
And it was available. And
Which
so
is
we're going to
crazy
rebrand
that
it.
That's available.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still shocked by the name.
I remember years and years ago hearing the terminology used for the first time when people were talking about like, it's really great. It's mailbox money, meaning residual passive income that comes from, well, I mean, any industry, but specifically in music from like royalties and things like that. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. I love that concept. So to know that was like common vernacular slang, if you will, and then no one had grabbed that.
I know.
Yeah.
It's just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop talking about that, but I'm still just
Well,
like...
I should have brought you I should have brought you a hat. Our hats are
Yes,
swag.
Oh, yeah.
Really cute.
Always like
I
That
know.
needs to be a
around here.
requirement for the future.
It does.
does.
I'll
Bring us swag.
I will get one
Okay,
to you. They're very
perfect.
cute. They're like
I will
white.
promote. Oh,
I
love
want-
it. Love
yeah, I
it.
want a
Yeah,
hat.
they're
Love
really
it.
cute.
I'm gonna do a hard cut real quick. Are we getting enough audio with her on the space?
Okay,
cool.
I can get.
We're just making sure.
Yeah.
Oh, you're fine. Yeah, I can
Okay.
turn you up and turn you
Am I
down.
doing?
Okay,
am I
perfect.
doing like I don't know what to do with my hands? Like.
Just talk
Is
with
it
your
okay?
hands.
That's good.
Just
Okay,
Okay.
cool. I just want to make sure.
Okay, cool.
All right, we'll jump
Proud?
back in.
I had a follow-up question.
Okay, go for it.
So you started to answer this, but my kind of question about where the origins of Mailbox Money were concerned, you said it sort of started with your husband Jimmy's own endeavors that you sort of dovetailed into. Was that...
And he
it
has
was sort of
accolades
accidental.
himself.
Yeah, he does. He's a great
Right.
producer.
Yeah.
So, and we'll talk about that too. But when you founded the company, were you thinking initially that you were going to leave Big Yellow Dog, or did it kind of happen by necessity that you needed to sort of start something and have full-time capacity to do that?
No, I left Big Yellow Dog to work with Jimmy.
Yeah.
Because he was going to have to hire somebody, and it just made sense, for our family. Throughout the years, there have been times when bigger companies have like tried to hire me back, which
to
has
poach
been
you.
which has been tempting because
You're a boss.
when you're when you're building a company, there are stepping stones, and it's just takes time. But I'm very proud.
Arguably, one of the things that might be better than a mailbox check is a regular check.
Yeah.
So it's tempting,
yes,
right?
It's tempting. Yes, it's tempting.
I think it all the time. I've never had one in my entire life.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it's like,
It's tempting.
Mhm.
it's tempting,
Yep.
Mhm.
But then I think about, I have to show up every day,
Yeah.
someone else's clock.
It's a
And
drag.
yeah.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's
Yeah.
it's really cool to be able to build something I think for yourself,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
we're really proud of it. And so yes, I
Mhm.
started it was very early in my career. It wasn't the beginning of my career, but the first few years, and newlywed, very young. We got married as like babies.
Ooh, how old were you?
23.
That was younger than
So
us.
young.
Yeah.
Yeah. How old were you?
20. My husband had just turned 26 and I was about to turn 26 a few weeks later.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, babies. But so I was like, oh yeah, we should also throw in like working together, which
They
was
call that trial by fire and what that's
Yeah.
called. Yeah.
which was bold. And
Baptism by fire. That's what it is.
it took a little time to figure out, but it's been really fun. And I think the sweet parts are extra sweet, when
Yeah.
you get to celebrate them together. Jimmy's written 10 #1 songs, a bunch of other hits
No
as a
big deal.
producer.
Not at all.
Yeah, he's really, really talented, and it's been a lot of fun getting to be part of his career for so long.
Of course.
Yeah.
And then also get to do what we do for other artists and writers and
Mhm.
producers. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, let's talk about that too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
who are you like really excited about that you work with? Because you guys do everything, and you mentioned this before. It's almost like kind of Motown vibes, where you've got publishing, a label, and management. And not correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't have to, if you're an artist coming into Mailbox Money, you don't have to be in all three. You can be in one or more.
That's why we
parts.
set it up, so we can help the artist with whatever they need
Yeah.
and not with what they don't,
That's great. Because I think a lot of maybe larger labels are going to try to maybe commandeer all of the parts of that puzzle. So
No,
gives
so-
an artist a little bit more autonomy,
Mhm.
and ability to kind of cultivate what they want to do.
Yeah, so we're really excited about Dawson Anderson, who we've worked with. He used to be in a band called Temecula Road.
I remember that band.
Same.
We were brought in to publishing when Disney Publishing closed their Nashville office.
Yep.
They needed creative services, so they cut us in to run their calendars and do everything, and kind of help on that
That's
side
a
of the
cool
development.
cut to get in on.
Yeah, it was very
Disney's kind of a brand.
I
It's
never
kind of a
got
big deal.
to go to Disney. I was like, I'm gonna go to Disney. It's gonna be awesome. And I didn't do it during the time. I was like, man, I can't believe I waited to go to Disney World when I didn't have a partnership with Disney anymore.
Dang it.
Well, anyway, so that deal, they were signed to Warner Records, and then they were dropped. Which it's tough because with majors it's just really hard to do artist development.
Yeah.
And so they released 3 songs in 1 year and it didn't work. I was like, well, of course it didn't work. That's not really the model anymore. You know? No disrespect to the major model. Sometimes, it works, but I feel like later in the process you need to have much more music out. So anyway, the band ended up breaking up, which was pretty sad. But Dawson is now a solo artist. And so we've been helping him with that, and we re-signed him to publishing with a different partner with LBK. So I'm very excited for Dawson. He's actually the only artist that we represent in publishing, and do artist development kind of like that.
Yeah.
We're kind of moving away from that.
And is he on the label side as well?
No, so we publish
Just in
him.
publishing.
Yes.
Publishing. Got it.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool to hear you talk a little bit about what development looks like in 2024 and, how it's changed over the years with, to your point, how majors have done it differently for a long time.
Yeah.
And from our vantage point, as we've seen artists that we've worked with over the years, everybody used to want the big label, the big dog, right?
Yeah.
And not so much of a smaller label. And part of that was everything was more comprehensive. It was like labels did development back then. And to a disservice sometimes to an artist that maybe had no idea what they wanted to be and who their audience was and their brand. And so they kind of came in as just raw talent that was ripe for the picking. And I always tell artists, you need to know who you are, because if you don't, somebody else in the industry who sees potential in you will pop you into the vending machine and out pops XYZ artist that they want you to be.
No,
And then
totally.
there's
They
problems
need to know.
10 years after that where you
Yeah.
don't know who you are and you've lost your identity and you
And those artists
spiral.
are out there putting, documentaries
Happens
out
all
on
the
Netflix
time.
about their trauma now.
No, absolutely.
Like legitimately. So what does it look like now? And what do you feel like is the wise way to go about that if you're an artist?
Well, and so that's also part of the reason why we have like changed our company and the way we do deals for artist development. Because like we work with an artist named Mike Parker, and he's signed to Mailbox Money Records, and we did like a proper artist development deal. We did not sign him to publishing. He was just starting to co-write. Now he's an amazing, writer, of course. But we were like, you know what? He needs help on the artist development side. He needs to get music out. So we just figured out a way to get music out every 6 weeks. That is what it takes for an artist. You can ask, the distributors. Like, we've just created a way to basically like have a waiting game and just keep trying and not blow our whole budget, and get music out every 6 weeks, which has been really great for him.
And so much more manageable, I think, for artists who forever it was like you put out music when you have a full, complete 12-track record or something like that. And that's when your new music comes out. And maybe you release a single a couple weeks before the record drops, which still happens. Yeah. But for people like Justin Timberlake, that's what they're doing versus most everybody else is doing. They're dripping out songs like that. But that makes it, to me, easier for an artist to be able to actually put stuff out there, because who can afford, especially when you're not a big artist yet, who can afford to do a full like 12-track record or whatever, but you could probably do it slower than that. And it's easier to, create momentum. Yeah. Right. And so that's obviously changed a lot.
And
in the last
I have
few years.
thoughts on I don't think that new artists should have to pay like producer fees. I work with producers. And so I know that, at least the producers that I work with, Jimmy, my husband, and Eric Arges, are comfortable doing like creative, like master split scenarios that make sense for everyone. And I don't think that artists should be spending all this money to work with, to get their music out. I think that they should also be fair. And if they don't have the budget, they need to just split the master with the producer. But so that's what we do. We don't, of course, if it's coming out on the label, but even for other projects, we've been part of a lot of artists' first number ones. And I think that, and then you are part of the rest, I think that it's in everybody's best interest to find like mutualistic relationships and partnerships, like mutually beneficial partnerships, and try to just say like, look, we're going to partner up on this. We're going to split it. You can also, and I think that's just a lot of artists don't know that they can do that. Yeah. I think, a great way to do it is to just say, look, can we split the master? And then if I get signed to a label, do a simple upstream clause where I'll pay your whole fee. And then from that moment on, like nothing in the past changes. Like we still split it till that moment. From that moment on, it can go to a standard royalty rate. Once I pay your fee. Like if a song blows up, then you shouldn't have to give the, producer half forever. But till that moment, you do. So everybody wins. And then you can pay whatever the fee is. Maybe, standard's like $5,000. So that's a lot for a new artist.
Yeah, to pony up.
Yeah.
Do you find that there's resistance with artists? Because, you have these stories like Taylor Swift, who is in all these issues with masters and is why she's re-releasing every record ever. And she's an enormous artist, so she kind of has the capacity to do that on a level that no other normal human being does. Yeah. But do you feel like there's resistance because people are like, no, I want my masters. I don't want to be like Taylor Swift in that situation. Yes. So, but when the way you're describing it seems so much more mutually beneficial. It seems more like everybody wins, and it makes it more accessible for you to find a foothold or like a foot in the door, so that you can actually start doing something. It's not build up, being really, really talented or having a massive audience on social, and then finally somebody gives you your big break. Like you can actually get a little bit more done yourself.
You can control your own destiny a little instead of like creating a project and then being like, ooh, please work, and then nobody hearing it, and then it's over.
Yeah. So how do you combat kind of that mindset? Have you seen that a lot with people?
I've seen it with artists that I haven't worked with. Sure. But yes, I have seen that. And I think that's more just like they aren't aware of how things work. Like, of course, if you don't have the money to pay a producer for their services and you also aren't giving up a percentage of it, then why would they help you? Why would they work with you? So I think it's more just like once you explain the situation. And I think I also believe in very artist-friendly deals. So I think it's more of a good faith effort to split the master like that and then have the upstream clause, because the second it goes viral, they're going to pay the fee and make it lower, you know, or like the second the song blows up. It's more of just like a good faith gesture.
Yeah.
Like they're not going to split it forever if it's a massive hit, you know?
And I think that's a good point, because I feel like a lot of times on the business side of music, you know, everyone's trying to get their piece and everyone needs to make money. But oftentimes I think the artist gets lost in that picture because they're usually the last to make any money, especially early on, right? And so with everyone coming in at that team effort to support the artist at every level will help that artist hopefully be successful.
Yeah.
Because I've known way too many artists that just had to give up because they couldn't make money.
Absolutely, yeah.
But yet everyone else got paid along the way.
It's tough.
And so you spend these years building this person and they have to stop. Like it's self-defeating in a way, right? For a momentary gain. So this long-term approach, I love what you're saying about that.
And it's easier to make money back like that as well. Like, because, I mean, if you're not spending all this money on the producer, like you're saying, then the masters recoup really quickly.
Really quickly.
Yeah.
And you can make money without even anything crazy like streaming, you know. You can break even in a year and then start making money. So yeah, it's definitely more doable. It's definitely like buildable growth that's not requiring luck. I mean, obviously we will take luck, you know, with something blowing up. But you can see monthly listeners growing. Like with Mike Parker, we started from, I think he had 30 monthly listeners with like one old song.
30?
I think
30.
So. Yes. And it was like one old song. Like maybe would have even been technically better for his algorithm to like start from zero. Like might have even been, you know, I'm not sure, but it had been so long, you know, it was like 30 monthly listeners or whatever.
Yeah.
And, you know, he was on the cover of Fresh Finds for a month, which is great. Yeah. And now, you know, it's just like he's getting asks for all of these really cool things. He's going to be singing the national anthem for the 4th of July big giant downtown Nashville party and like all this stuff.
That's
so
cool.
you know, there's just like all of these cool opportunities, and we've just been building it just slowly but surely.
What was it about Mike that attracted you to go work with him, especially given the fact that he had 30 monthly listeners?
Yeah, well, he was coming off of American Idol. And so Jimmy was the American Idol country mentor, like producer for that season 2 years ago. You can look it up. He was so cute on there. That's like cool. he was really cute. He's so funny. He's way better at all this stuff than I am. But yeah, so he was on there and he met Mike. Mike didn't make the top 10, but he got home and he was like, man, this artist, Mike Parker, you know, he's so talented. I think you need to meet him and I think we should help him. You know, he's going to move to Nashville and he's, you know, figuring it all out. And I think we need to work with him. And I was like, I'd love to meet him. And he has everything. His stage presence, his personality. It doesn't feel like he's like putting it on though. You know, he's just like real. And I love that. Yeah. And he's such a talent. And,
that's great.
And so I was like, yep, let's do it. So we cut a song. Then Jimmy started writing with him. And then we've done a mixture of outside and co-write like songs that he's written and then some outside songs. We have so many songs just sitting too, you know, big catalog. So I just fell in love with everything about Mike. I love him.
Go ahead.
I think we both did. Well, question came to mind. Like, I think for everyone listening out there, you know, you bring up Idol, other things. That's seems to be the most common thread if you're in, you know, Des Moines and you write songs or you sing at a local club every weekend. You know, you got some talent and you feel really good about what you're doing, but don't know how to connect to people like you. Other than Idol and The Voice, but not everyone wants to go that route. Not everyone should go that route or can.
No.
What would be some advice for, you know, any of our listeners out there to connect with power players like you to share their art?
I would not.
You're a boss.
Yeah.
That's
Y'all
what this
are
title of
very
this episode
kind.
is going to be, talking with the boss.
That's what Priscilla calls me.
Oh, nice.
Sarah
Yes.
Robbins. I'm like, you're ridiculous. Our funny mutual friend.
Yes.
Yeah. So actually, I would say for the most part, those shows are probably not the move.
I
think
agree
it
with
was.
you.
I think it was just like kind of a fluke that was the way that they met. That he met Jimmy and then us. For most people, probably not the move. You know, they do like multiple seasons. I feel like I work closely with some of those, companies. So I'm like that run all of those shows. But they do so many seasons now.
It's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
That by the time
I don't know who wins any
over,
of them.
No,
No
I
one
never
does.
know who, because I don't have the time to watch them.
You know, about
No.
5 or
I
6
never know
years
who wins
ago,
any
maybe
of those
even a
shows.
little longer, it switched to being about the coaches and not about
it
the
did.
artists
Right.
or
You're
the
right.
songs.
You're right.
And so
Totally did.
they're TV shows now, and I get it.
Yeah.
You know, I've worked with all of them as well, and I've worked with a lot of artists who've gone through those platforms. But yeah, they've really become about the coaches
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely,
For
and about the
entertainment
TV.
and the TV.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure. So I think, if that really makes sense for an artist, cool. I would say 99 times out of 100 probably isn't the best way to do it.
I always tell everyone I work with who's on one, know your exit plan.
For
know
sure.
when to get out.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure.
obviously you take an artist like Benson Boone, who he's on top of the world right now.
Yeah.
And he was on that, I think, did he do one episode of American Idol a couple years ago,
Oh,
right?
really? I
And
didn't know
they
that.
pulled him off of it.
Which is good because then he wasn't in a crazy
And
deal.
he was
Yeah,
but he was so
right.
good behind the scenes, the story I've heard anyway, behind the scenes, he had so much to offer and so much talent that some people came around him like,
Oh, yeah.
let's go.
Yeah.
You know, but one show connected him. So there's still an opportunity for people,
Yeah.
especially if you're like, if you're just probably one of the greatest things about music, the business of it is so mysterious. Even us who work in it, we still don't know
Yeah.
what it is or how it works. We just wake up and do it, right?
You
Nobody knows
try.
what they're
You
doing. We're all
try.
just
No one really
making it up
knows.
as we
It's-
go along.
It's
Yeah.
the weirdest thing, but I think that's what makes it so magical
Mhm.
and what makes everyone always continue to, thrive and keep doing it because
Absolutely.
we're still trying to figure it out every day. So,
Yeah.
I know it's a big question to anyone, but are there any little secrets that you have for people to try to connect with people in the know and people who make decisions like you do?
Absolutely. I think I always say control what you can control and don't worry about the rest so much. Like everybody just
good.
wants to say, I need to go get signed by this major label and I need to meet this executive and then my whole life will change and
Yeah.
I need to go, I need to do this and get an agent and do all of these things. I'm like, well, you haven't really played any shows, so
Yeah.
why would, let's just
Yeah.
start where we can actually control it. So I think, social media, I don't think it's the end all be all. I think TikTok is, has way too much control over the music industry. But I also think it would be dumb to not use social media as a very, very valuable tool.
Right.
So I think you need to be able to accompany yourself if you're trying to be an artist. There's so many artists that I meet who cannot accompany themselves. And that is
Yeah.
one extra step that's hard. If you want an opportunity, then you have to get somebody to come learn all your songs.
Yeah.
And so I think honing your craft, getting to a point where you can sit in front of a camera, your phone, and record an acoustic version or just, literally just accompany yourself with a guitar or a piano, and post it everywhere and just be able to actually like put your music out in do an affordable, any artist I think could be able to do that. I think that's
Right.
accessible for everyone. I don't think you have to go spend
It's
a bunch
free.
of money. Yeah.
Right.
And kind of learn how to market yourself within, reason, like modestly market yourself, I guess. Like just, you don't have to be like a pro at it, but just
Right.
figure it out a little bit. And I think that, I would have seen it. I look at all of those new country artists,
Yeah.
that's, I think that's doable.
It's part of your job is to be
yeah.
looking for stuff. looking for
Absolutely.
people.
And then you can
So go be found.
go be found. And
Yeah.
and you can't just expect somebody to find you. I feel like that is the main thing. It's I have all this great music and they want to like wait to release anything. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, how are we gonna know about it if you don't put it out there?
Right.
I think that is the most valid point,
Mhm.
right? And that even starts with people working with people like Shelby and I on the coaching level to give them, the confidence to step out and do what they want to do. I can't tell you how many artists I talk to, I work with even, especially talk to a lot of producers who cut all these songs, but the artist won't release them.
Yeah.
And I think, again, because ego's connected to all of this.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And so,
in politics.
and politics, like there's so many uncontrollable variables, but one thing you can try to control is your ego.
Yeah.
And so it does start with the social media.
Yeah.
I have a hard time with it myself sometimes.
Sure.
I don't feel like I look good in this video. I shouldn't put it out there.
Yeah.
Well, that's silliness because that's not what it's about anyway.
No.
And number two, I think people will drop stuff and they're like, oh, everyone's seen it. Well, that's not true either.
No.
Maybe 20 people saw it out of your 20,000 followers. We don't know. But it's just the constant putting yourself out there, playing shows, putting out the social media posts, writing the songs, releasing the songs.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't, I tell people again constantly, like if you're going to open a donut shop and make donuts, one, you should learn how to make a really great donut, right?
Yeah,
If
right.
you
Of
want to
course.
stand out, learn how
Yeah.
to make a great donut. Hone in the craft.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, at some point you got to start selling the donuts or at least giving them away for free.
For sure.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you're just going to sit there and wonder forever and hope and wish and wait for someone to find you. And that is not going to happen.
They could be the best donuts in the world, but
Nobody
if you don't,
knows.
No,
Well,
nobody knows.
No,
Yeah.
and I think all
Yeah.
the time, how many great artists in the world do we never hear because they never
Yeah.
let us hear it?
No,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's like you have to shine your light. You
You
have
do.
to, because and if you have the right frame for why you're doing what you're doing,
Mhm.
then you recognize that it's not about you. I feel like it was Taylor Swift many, many, many moons ago. Okay, my elementary aged child who's in second grade, he was like, "Mom, did you know that Taylor Swift used to sing country music?" And I died. I like cracked up. I was like, "I did actually know that. I am old enough to know that.
That's so funny.
You were a dream in your mother's heart, son." Before, before she was a country artist. But it was funny because it was like shocking to him. Did you know? Anyway, she said, I remember hearing some interview where she basically was like, after she wrote a song, she's like, I'm the vessel of the song. And so now I kind of separate myself from like, it's mine, and say, I'm just going to serve the song to my audience and whatever they need to hear. And I feel like if we had a better perspective of that as a whole, whatever industry you're in, whether it's music or something else, realizing that whatever gifts that you've been given are meant for everyone else,
Yes.
not for you to hoard, because one, you're
very
never going to
true.
make any money doing it that way. But two, it's not fulfilling on a soul level because
No.
it's all for you. And really, I think we're hardwired to serve other people.
Yeah.
And so if we have that frame, then the ego dies a little bit better, a little bit quicker, because you're not thinking about, oh my gosh, everyone's going to judge this. Yeah, well, they are, but that is life, right?
Yeah.
And ultimately, the people that are meant for you to serve and to be in front of and to have as an audience are the ones who are cheering you on, the ones that are probably the most like you too. You know, I've heard in business, like you're most qualified to serve the person you once were. And I think as an artist that we can tap into that. You know, we can go like, who was I listening to and inspired by that really made me want to make music? And if we put that lens on when we're writing and putting our music out there, then maybe we have a better focus and we're better, we're not thinking as much about how we look and how we're coming across and how good it is, but instead just putting it out there as I'm a vessel. I'm here to serve my audience. And whoever wants it gets to take it, and if they don't, then they're not for me, and that's okay.
No,
Well,
absolutely.
I think
that's
that's
great.
to a point too, where the three of us, I think we could all agree, we like to work with people who are missional about their art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Like
absolutely.
there is no plan B.
No.
There is no option, or I guess option B. Plan B is a whole different thing. But maybe there was. I don't know. But there's no option B. Like, this is my life. This is why I'm here on this planet, and I'm going to do it whether I sign a deal or I just play the local club the rest of my life.
Yes.
Right.
And so when you have that, I heard someone recently say a comment to the point of one of the big frustrations in today's space is that with social media, especially like a TikTok, there's so much noise. Everyone wants to do music. Everyone wants to be a singer, but who's really supposed to be a singer? And so if that's you out there and you really know this is your calling in life and your mission, and there's nothing going to stop you, you do have to fight through the noise of all the millions on TikTok that think they are.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that just want to feed their ego and be famous.
And that is tough.
And that's
tough.
that's short term too. But
It
if
is
you're
short
playing
term.
the long game,
It's the
then
long game.
You gotta suffer through
One of the
some
greatest things I ever learned was when someone told me music is the long game.
100%.
You cannot, you don't give up.
No.
And I think we're seeing that now, where like in the past, let's say 10 years, we're starting to see more like mature artists, like 30s, 40s, even in their 50s, who, like one of our acquaintances through our old coach, who was on The Voice, actually played well for her. But Wendy Moten, one of the greatest singers on the planet. But it wasn't into her 50s that she really got the recognition. I mean, she's touring the world with everyone.
Vince Gill,
Julio Iglesias, like all these amazing artists, and she was just the backup singer, not just, but she was a backup singer. But she gets her moment in the sun finally, what she really wanted in her mid-50s.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, the long game is really the play.
Absolutely.
And it's also like your donut gets better, or
Right.
it should, if not.
It should, yeah.
Yeah.
Should.
Right?
I wanted to ask about sort of the relational side of this. So obviously there's The Voice, there's American Idol, there's America's Got Talent, all these different
I like
shows.
that one.
And those are all the ones that we're sort of saying, these are rare occasions. This is the 1 in a million kind of way to get into the industry. And then, because you also, when you're talking about, was it Mike? That's how you found him, right? Just
Yes.
through the show. So I think somebody might be able to listen and go, oh, but that's just like the lucky break or whatever. But the reality was it was a way to create a relationship, right? Even if the show hadn't existed, he could have still found him. He could have still found you. Because I don't think that, I know I didn't understand this in my 20s when I was pursuing a career as an artist, was how many relationships I already had, even though I was not well networked, right? I was not really dispersed into the culture so well in New York, and New York is big. But I didn't know that I actually did have some friendships and relationships or even acquaintances that I could have reached out to, but I was scared to ever call somebody or text somebody and ask for anything. And I guess I didn't want to be salesy or annoying. And so I just was like, they'll find me because I'll just be so great and they'll just find me one day, which, you do have to put yourself out there. And this is really before the boom of social media too.
That is.
But I've realized more in the last 5-10 years how important our relationships are. And as my business coach says, you're like one relationship away from basically your dreams coming true.
Absolutely.
And you don't know that the one guitar player for that one band also can connect you because you might have something special to offer. So how do you suggest artists who maybe they're showing up online, maybe they're putting their music out there, they can't accompany themselves, all of those things. How would you suggest for somebody to reach out to a person like you when they feel like, oh my gosh, I could never do that? You know what I mean?
Oh, well, I'll have coffee with anybody. Anybody can reach out to me.
Do you hear that,
Please.
everybody? She'll have coffee with anybody.
And her phone number is.
I think most people would. I think, especially in Nashville.
Especially Nashville.
Yeah.
Nashville, anybody, I mean, you could ask again, I don't think you need to go straight to like the highest executive at a label, but I think if you sent an email and said, can I take you to coffee and pick your brain? I think they would say yes.
People are really kind about that. That was
Really
surprising to me
kind.
when I really started to be more intentional.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
yeah.
yeah, sure, let's do that, because it's such a symbiotic nature, the nature of music industry here. It's like you know that you have to have a lot of relationships to make it successful.
Yeah.
Like a creative team, which I'd like to ask you about as well.
And I will
Absolutely.
say, if you have the awkward vibes out there, because people do,
I do.
you need to like, no, but you know what I mean? Like we're, and this is not to,
My middle name.
this is not to like hate on anyone, but some people have really awkward social anxieties. A lot of people have social anxiety. I get that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get that because I clearly do not, but I need to learn to shut up sometimes. But a lot of people, they're hesitant to walk up and say hey to someone. When they do, it comes off really awkward for everyone.
Yeah.
You need to get some coaching on that if you're really serious about it, because what we're saying here is like, if you came up to any of us and you seem normal and cool, we're going to have coffee with you. If you put off this weird vibe and it's like, I'm talking to an alien, that's something you should probably work on your social skills a bit so that it comes off more natural and inviting.
And
if
you'll need that if you want to be an artist anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're going to need it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a really strong point. I will say to this as well, one of the greatest ways, talking about gatekeeping in our first episode, Shelby, two of your greatest gatekeepers that do still exist out there, because there's still gates for sure.
Absolutely.
There always will be.
Yeah.
An attorney and a vocal coach. we say it all the time. Those two people have nothing to gain from your career other than your success.
Yeah.
Right? We're going to be with you as long as you need us because it's an exchange of service. We're not there just until you keep making money. You make it big, right? And so, and we have relationships across the spectrum. Great attorneys and great coaches do. And so if you're really serious out there about your music and you're wanting to connect with people in Nashville, you call us and start working with us and the talents there. Yeah. We're going to connect you with people like you.
No, absolutely.
Right? And that's going to be a natural flow. But even saying that, it's crazy how many of my artists don't even take advantage of that.
Right.
It's like, do you really want to do this?
Yeah.
I know so many people.
You got to just ask. You know, people are afraid to ask. Because they're afraid to hear a no.
No, absolutely.
We all are.
No, totally.
We're all afraid to hear no's.
I think more of the creative team, vocal coach, amazing. I also think
thank you. I needed
really, really important to find, if you're a songwriter. One of my favorite stories in town is my husband's story. He dropped out of 9th grade, which is wild.
That's
and
really
we're
wild.
not, we're at 14. I'm like, don't tell our daughter that. Because you have to be very talented.
Don't even tell your mailman that.
No,
They're going to judge.
I know. I know. And he tells everyone, he'll tell everybody at our, I'm like, dude, and they'll laugh. They'll be like, ha. No, he's like, no, really. I'm like, what did you expect him to do?
That's so funny.
He's kind of a freak of nature. He's a genius. And I mean, I wouldn't tell us his face, but he really is a musical prodigy.
Well, we won't send this podcast to him.
You can tell.
He can't.
But he's
really
doing what he's
Don't pump his tires too
much.
much.
Right?
Yes. But I think, he dropped out of 9th grade, went on Warped Tour. Slept in parking lots, drove a car without a license for older teenagers, all across the country, whatever. This bizarre story. Then moved to LA and then moved to Nashville. Very quickly had success. Seemed like overnight success.
Wow.
But the way he really did it was he just kind of always did his thing. He wrote with John Knight and Nicole Gallion before they had none of them had any hits. Now they are 3 of the biggest songwriters in country music, you could argue, so I think you have to find your people.
You do.
And everybody's so worried about well, if I get to write with this bigger writer, then I'll be successful. But really, no, we all, especially in Nashville, it's such a small town, you kind of come up in classes.
Sure.
I feel not grades, feel in my, in the music industry, now, everybody that I kind of came up with, they're VPs or, it's really amazing to see. And same with the songwriters, Jimmy started, writing with John and Nicole, and then they had a ton of hits together. And it's just really cool. And it's also maybe you can have a hit if you get into this bigger room that you maybe shouldn't be in yet. But is that maintainable?
Yeah, and
no.
What if they're not really
grow.
the people you click with as a writer? So it's to your point, start writing wherever you can.
Yeah,
with
and
whoever
write with
you know.
people that you think are talented, and then
That's
really
good.
make sure that what you're bringing to the table is good, and then you will all come up together. And then if you get an opportunity to write with somebody, bigger, more successful than you, you better go in super prepared.
Yeah,
but I think finding your actual creative collaborators. I also don't think maybe you're not a writer, that's fine too. Finding songs, finding other people who, have great access to great available songs.
Yeah.
Finding your producer, partnering with your producer to release music affordably.
Yeah.
I mean, we can get down to when you're not paying a producer, I think you can do it for you can do it even cheaper, but properly sounding like the radio. If you partner with a hit producer or just really talented producer, you can get a master out for $1,000, $1,500, and it's the same quality, you know?
Right.
So, I mean, that's obviously not forever, but in the building stage, and then you can do a great music video affordably, and you don't need to blow all your budget on that. It's do it within your means. But so finding your actual creative partners, I think, is really the biggest one, the actual ones to create the art.
And those are the people that have such powerful relationships as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
So
sure.
they can connect, not that this is always the motive, but it's wise because they will connect you to other people who are in the rooms and in the places that you want to ultimately get to.
Yeah.
It's just sort of doing the next right thing, right?
Absolutely.
The next right step, the next creative step of growth and development.
playing shows so people can see you there.
And people don't, it's fascinating to me, people don't know that you can book yourself. You can call
yeah.
a venue and say, hey, will you let me play?
Absolutely.
And I figured that out when I lived in New York when I was 21, didn't know nothing. Because I was like, I don't have any relationships to do this. And so I just basically played shows on the Lower East Side, wherever people would have me, like smaller venues that were a little more my style, artistically. I remember playing at, what was that place called? Well, actually, my very first show was at a crazy bar called Otto's Shrunken Head. And my mom and dad,
man, I wish I had been there.
Otto's Shrunken Head.
Sounds like a good time.
I know. There were about 4 people that were there. And they were probably all totally drunk listening to me play.
That should be the name of your 4th child.
It was, oh, look at Otto's sad shrunken head. Oh my gosh. My mom was like, one day you're going to be on Jay Leno, because this was a long time ago when Jay Leno had a TV show. And she's like, and you can tell the story of Otto's shrunken head. I think they were horrified when I played that show because they were like, are you going to make it out alive at this bar?
That's
pretty
amazing.
epic. And I was like, it is a good story. It was humble beginnings. Anyway, but that being said, I called the venues. I called these places that were a bar or a music venue or whatever. And I was like, hey, and I had a MySpace. And so I might have sent them my MySpace page or something like that if they needed to see something. Yeah. But they were like, okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can play here. They didn't care, right?
No.
And not that there's no bar.
No. I used to do some booking.
Don't have a bar.
I used to do some booking for a bar. And anybody who would reach out, I would check it out. It's very easy to get shows.
It's so easy. And people are like, I don't know how to get in. I'm like, are you waiting for the phone to ring?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
and I still think it's
you
the
need to make
greatest
phone
way
calls.
to make your career happen is
for
playing
sure.
live shows.
Yeah.
And by and large, most people don't think that way or do that.
It's a great filter for figuring out if you want to do this.
If you want to do
Absolutely.
it, you know, and I think I really do believe moving forward in the world as it is and evolving and changing, especially with AI and everything, I do believe the live show is going to become more and more special and more important to all of us.
Yeah.
And we even know in today's industry, like that's really how artists make money.
Yeah,
It's a live show. It kind of sucks for us because we have to spend $500 to go see them.
Yeah.
But that's where it's at.
Absolutely.
Where do you feel like is a good place to sort of direct people as they are trying to make money, you know, and they're in the early stages, or maybe they did get in with the master splits like you were talking about before. At what point is it reasonable to expect to start making money? And obviously with streaming, people aren't buying music anymore. They're streaming it. You get like 0.0000001% of a stream. You know, like how do you make money?
It's tough. And that's why we were talking about this earlier, but why artists their first goal used to be trying to get a pub deal because it's a little bit of a cushion. You get a little bit of you get a draw. In advance.
That's changed.
And that has changed. Yes. So
what did it used to be? Like tell people a figure like 10 years ago. If you signed a decent deal.
Yeah. 20 like publishing deal,
yeah.
25, 30 grand.
Okay.
Would still be like the entry level, I'd say.
For
what
a
is
term
it
for
today?
a year.
I mean, similar, like
Similar?
30,
Okay.
yeah. And I mean, that's like nothing going on. Like,
Yeah.
but I
Just
will
someone
say,
believes in you.
Yes.
But you could have lived off that a little bit more 10 years ago. You can't live off
10
that
years
now.
you can't.
No.
Today.
And now, like for all of our publishing deals, we have partners with, majors or larger companies. And we do, creative and they handle the like admin and whatnot. And so our partners fund our deals, which is very, very cool.
Yeah.
And we do the creative.
Yeah.
And that wasn't
That's
always
good.
the case, but that's the way we've
really
structured
smart.
our deals. And we have a lot of different partnerships, again, because it's all who's the right fit for this specific writer or
That's
artist.
really smart.
Yeah.
But
Shelby, this is where you pull out the guitar and we get a pub deal.
Okay.
Sing a song. That's why she's here.
Yeah, our partners have all expressed that, there was a pretty big shift in the industry recently in the past few years where we're doing less artist development via publishing, which is why we have like adjusted our business plan. And it makes more sense. Publishing is such a long game. It's already so hard to get outside cuts. It's already really hard. I think it's even better for an artist unless they're such a great writer, like already. Like Dawson Anderson, he is an amazing writer. He gets cuts, like people fight over his songs. Like he'll have success as a writer and an artist. Like,
That's cool.
But I don't think it's the best fit like for everyone. And I do think the whole town thought that was the way to do it.
For sure.
And it's just very
Absolutely.
hard for those majors like to make their money back on that artist's first pub deal. Like it's not quite enough time for the developmental process and then for the songs to all come out and like happen to make money. Very rarely does it work right away. So it's just been a pivot. So I don't think that's a realistic like way for a new artist to come in and be like, I'm going to get a pub deal and I'm going to have a little cushion to like grow my artist career and I'm going to write
my step before the
Yes,
label,
I don't
which
think-
is what I feel like it was seen as.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, for all of us, like that was the way it
Well, I
worked.
can't get a major record
Yes,
label,
so
but
I'm
maybe I
gonna
could
do
get
that.
a pub
Pub
deal.
deal.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so now, we're doing more like artist development deals. You can ask for a draw, which would just be, money that is recoupable. That way. I also think it's reasonable to have like a side job. I've always had a job. Like I don't think it's like too much to ask for an artist who's working on what they're doing to also like go have a side job. Like I feel like as somebody who has had multiple at a time, like I think that's okay. I also get that it's very hard.
It is hard, but they're also called side hustles.
Yes.
And I think hustle is the key word there.
Yeah,
You have to hustle
you do.
at every level of the game. But to the point, I spent my 20s being a little too comfortable, right? I didn't have to struggle and I didn't have to really hustle. And that was primarily because my dad and my grandmother, great aunt, my sister, everyone around me was like, oh, they struggled, so he doesn't need to.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't that I just had abundance and like the life I was just kind of like pointing out a minute ago, but it was enough that I didn't have to hustle hard.
Yeah.
And then when I hit my 30s, it's like, whoa, this isn't going as planned and I'm not really growing here. And I had to start to dig in and hustle.
Absolutely.
And that's when things started to actually happen in my own world.
Yeah.
And I think that's true for all of us. And there is something really beautiful about a grind and a hustle and a drive that says, I'm not going to give up on this.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the last couple of years of the self-care movement, if you will, has sort of poo-pooed hard work.
For sure.
It's like, no, I'm just going to, hustle's bad. I'm going to just self-care, whatever. And honestly, I think there's space for both of these things because neither of those are understanding the other in true form.
Sure.
Dan Martell says your capacity is expanded at the extremities.
Yeah.
And it's true. Anytime in muscle building, like if you're lifting weights, the most important reps are the last few.
Yeah.
Because that's where it hurts the most. That's where
Absolutely.
you gain the most, right?
Yeah.
And so we've kind of shied away from this as if it's like so bad and I'm going to burn out. And absolutely, that happens. And so you have to have wisdom in how you're growing and building. But that doesn't mean you don't work hard, right? It's that idea. I'm going to try to say this right. It's my dad drove a Chevy. His dad drove I'm going to say the brand's wrong, a Honda Accord or whatever. So that then his dad drove the Corvette or whatever. And it's, I know I'm saying that totally wrong. So he's going to be like, wow, good try. But the idea is like, if my dad drove the Corvette, then it basically the wealth generationally sort of trickles down in such that because I'm the beneficiary of like a rich father, then I didn't have to work hard.
Yeah.
So then what I'm passing down is like a lesser version of that, to where ultimately you get to that point. And this is like a common economic model, right? Is that the person at the bottom of all of this is poor, right? And because they were just given stuff and they don't know how to create wealth themselves. Yeah. Well, then they eventually get to that point where if you're the poor end of the generation here, then you learn how to work hard because you have to. You're forced to hustle and create wealth. And then you are now driving the Corvette, right? Yeah. And then it kind of keeps happening. And so the key there is being able to, one, understand, I think probably where you are in your own generational line of, did I have to work that hard? Like how did my parents do? Did they give me a lot or did I have to work for a lot? And neither is right or wrong. It was just like recognizing a reality so that part of your frame and your perspective and how you show up in the world is majorly influenced by what you were given as a child, so that then it informs how hard you work or how hard you don't work, and understanding like hard work is good for all of us.
Yeah, and that really is the thing. I mean, I feel like
very entitled.
Yeah, I feel like it's very bold. You're not going to get where you want to be by just being like, oh, I need all these like self-care days, or everything is too hard. Like, yes, life is hard. Yeah, but it's also like, fun and worth it, and it's really, you can feel really proud of like building something, like growing your career. And again, like people think that I'm going to go back to Jimmy. people think that like, oh, well, once I get to this level, then I'll only have to write like a few, times a week or whatever. Like Jimmy writes.
He's got to hustle daily
every
still.
day. He gets
You got to
there-
maintain that.
Oh, he leaves. Yeah, he gets there at like 8, sometimes earlier. Does all the production stuff from the day before. Same with Eric. Like they're doing, production. Eric does mixing, like all of these different things. Like you're only going to get busier the more successful you get. And if you then are like, well, I'm going to take a big step back. Like, no, then you'll become a lot less busy.
Right.
And you'll become a lot less successful.
It's like working out. You don't get to be a bodybuilder and then you're like, cool, I don't have to work out anymore. You lose all that.
The biggest songwriter.
You have to maintain it.
I mean, I guess I think he has to be like across all genres at this point, the most successful. But in Nashville, Ashley Gorley.
Yeah, Ashley Gorley.
He writes more than anybody else. He writes like the guys that are the most successful write the most. And I think that's a really tough thing that I have to explain to writers too that I work with. I'm like, I know you're busy and I know you feel really, really busy. But like, like the top liners are also lucky to not have to then stay and do all of the production work, But like, new artists or top liner writers are like, well, I don't think I only want to write this many days. It's like, well, it is a numbers game. Like you do have to be.
Your
writing.
schedule gets busier, your team gets bigger.
Yeah.
But I really believe,
have to work hard.
you don't stop working or stop hustling until you take your last breath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
And you can still take your bubble baths.
And you can still take bubble baths and do all the
and
things.
then you get back to work.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Like play tennis before and then get all sweaty before this podcast.
Right?
My bad.
I've always looked up to people who are older because they're wiser and they've had more experience. But if you take anyone in their 80s or 90s, or even those who get to be 100, and you listen to their interviews, because they always get interviewed, especially when we get the hundreds, they always go back to they worked hard. They'll have one little thing they do weird, like, I took a teaspoon of cayenne pepper every day, whatever. Right? They'll always have one
like
little
raisins in rum or something. Yeah.
My I had a great great uncle did that. Olin. He lived to be like 98.
All right.
A
teaspoon? That's why I said that. It was in my memory bank.
That's a large amount of cayenne pepper.
Yeah,
like all
I know.
at once.
But he worked every day and did this. You just work, and it's nothing against retiring, whatever. That's a different space. But in the creative world where we're talking about, I don't know you ever really retire. You just keep going.
Yeah.
You just keep going. That's why, again, I really admire someone like Martha Stewart, who just like, she's 82.
Is she that old?
She's 82 and she comes up out of the pool in a bikini.
She's stunning.
And like everyone's
I love
like,
her.
look at Martha Stewart.
Dang.
I
She's
know,
got a little
it's
edge too
crazy.
because she went to prison.
Totally,
Everything.
yeah.
No notes.
Yeah.
Love
She's
Martha.
smoking some stuff with,
Snoop.
with Snoop every day.
Yeah.
They were both at the Derby this weekend, and it
that's
made me
awesome.
so happy.
That's so good.
Yeah,
What a strange friendship.
I know, but but we're sitting here talking about
Yeah,
it.
We
there
are.
you go.
And
We
she's
are.
82 and a billionaire. Like she's doing something right.
She
I
is
should
the
look up
first
to
female
her.
billionaire. I learned this recently. She's the
Wow.
first female billionaire was
Like
Martha Stewart.
self-made?
I actually thought it was Oprah, but it was
I thought it
Martha
was the
Stewart.
Queen.
Wow.
Maybe in America,
Oh, maybe.
I don't know.
Or maybe self-made.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah.
but
That's amazing.
yeah. Man,
Yeah.
Sarah, thanks for joining
yeah, hey,
us.
we
I
could
love
talk
this.
for 14 hours.
We totally
clearly.
could. And I feel like we've covered a lot of ground,
Right.
but central theme having to do with you have to put in the work. You have to show
Yes.
up for yourself, invest in yourself, make the phone calls, build the relationships, and just keep going and not try to make it all about the magic silver bullet.
Yes.
Right? If only I had this or whatever, but just keep cultivating, just keep building
Yeah.
relationships and building your craft.
And releasing your music, even
Yeah.
if you're just doing a simple video on social media. I mean, that's how Olivia Rodrigo was discovered, right?
Yeah.
That song blew up on
Yeah,
TikTok.
that's it.
Yeah, and it was,
totally.
I mean, any artist could have done that.
Yeah.
yeah.
If it's good enough, I think people will listen.
Yeah.
Totally. And if you keep putting in the work,
Mm-hmm.
you will eventually, hopefully, get that mailbox money.
That mailbox
Right?
money.
And if you all keep listening to these podcasts and sharing it, we'll get some too.
Sarah, tell the people where they can find you and find Mailbox Money if they want to
Yes.
be
Yeah.
able to connect and like just learn more. Follow
Absolutely.
along.
On our website, mailboxmoneymusic.com. And it has, you can check out the management side, record side, and publishing side.
Awesome.
And yeah, and my Instagram is a little weird. Sarah Robbins, we were saying.
I know.
But yeah.
There we
Yeah,
go.
come
We'll
say
link
hi.
all of that in the
Okay.
show notes so people
Yeah.
can find you.
Great.
And thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much
it.
for having me.
Yeah.
This was great.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Until next time from the Vocal Lab podcast, I'm Jason.
And I'm Shelby.
Thanks
And I'm
again.
Sarah.
See you guys
No.
next time.
Do we need to-
Thanks for tuning in to the Vocal Lab podcast. Ready to join the top ranks of the music industry? Don't forget to follow and subscribe for more first-class conversations that make the extraordinary your new ordinary. Until next time, keep striving for your top note.